Mm. Oh my goodness. We are live, baby. And we're still raw. We are at Studio Money, the unfinished virtual studio of Sterling Worldwide. And I don't know, maybe there's an angle where you can see some of the stuff going on around me. We're very raw in the room, but by the time we're done, it's going to be gorgeous, like you. I'm excited about that. We got a big 24-foot LED wall on one side. We've got a 10-foot LED wall behind me. I think that's pretty cool. It's a cool room. It's going to be great for virtual events. We've got a beautiful set desk, news desk coming in. In the meantime, though, just me in a chair and a portable drawer space to put my coffee on and my laptop so I can have these conversations with you. We're about to relaunch Marshall Silver Live. I'm excited about that. If you are a fan of the old show, and who wasn't, you know that we gave away over, let's see, gosh, over 50 10-ounce bars of Marshall Silver Pure Silver, 10-ounce bars of silver. And we were going to start doing that again, except the price of silver is going like through the roof. So it'll be cheaper for me to just give you $500. I mean, that's a good thing. Don't get me wrong on both fronts. You winning $500 on a daily basis would be pretty good. And the fact that silver is going up is just actually a really good indication of where we are right now in the economy. Today, I'm going to ramble on for about an hour. I will take your calls here in the studio should anyone want to chat with me. I always like talking to you. A lot going on. We are almost a week from the day, November 5th, where Donald Trump got elected back into the White House as number 47. And so much has happened during this week, it blows my mind. My wife likes to chat a bit. I love her so much, and I love to chat. And I tease her about the fact that she talks a little more than I would have, except if that's the only thing I have to tolerate in my marriage, I am a blessed man. At the same time, my daughter is a mini me of my wife's. Prosperity is definitely mini me of her mother, Erica. And one day, many years ago, Prosperity had to have been maybe 3. I was carrying her in my arms and she was just talking and talking and talking and talking. And I said, Prosperity, if you stop talking for 1 minute, will your brain explode? And she looked at me almost offended, like, my gosh, Dad, I can't believe you said that to me. And she went completely silent. And I'm sitting here thinking I hurt my daughter's feelings. That wasn't very nice. I was teasing. I was just making fun, except I felt really bad. She goes completely silent for 60 seconds. And then she taps me on the shoulder. She looks at me. She goes, I love people. And you should love people too, which brings me to the topic of today's conversation and my rant. President Trump overwhelmingly was elected the 47th president of the United States. I would say the only time a person legitimately got more votes than he did in this election was Donald Trump in 2020. Legitimately got more votes in that election, 78 million, than he got in this one. And I know a lot of people don't like hearing that. Some people get offended when I even suggest that the 2020 election was massively corrupt. Not even close. It was massively corrupt. And I also, though, I believe in God. And for those of you that don't know me, you know that while I deeply love God and have a deep belief and foundation in my life that God is the center of, I'm not a religious man. As a hypnotist, I have studied all major religions. And again, I don't seek to be your friend because we agree. I seek to be your friend because you believe that I am a person worthy of being your friend and vice versa. We don't have to agree on anything. And if we don't agree on religion, I'm okay. I have lots of Buddhist friends and Muslim friends and Christian friends and everything that you can imagine friends. I have those friends. And so I don't need my friends to agree with my ideologies to be friends. I also don't want to hide my own ideologies to be friends with anybody else, and neither should you. If you want to get attacked, have an opinion is a fact. The fact is, though, that one of the biggest challenges that people are dealing with right now is all of the things they thought to be true are suddenly dissolving around us. I see Democrats getting angry that Trump won the election, and blaming the Republicans for cheating in the election. And one of the blames is, where did the 20 million votes that we got back in 2020, up to 81 million, almost 82 million votes for Joe Biden in 2020, where did those 20 million Democratic votes go? That's a phenomenal question, and one you should be asking of yourself and of the Democratic Party and of, the world in general. Where did those 20 million votes go? Did those 20 million people just stop voting? The answer is no. They never voted in the first place. They didn't vote in 2004, 8, 12, 16. They didn't vote. They didn't vote again in 2024. Those 20 million votes aren't real. They didn't exist. They weren't people. And if there wasn't time for those 20 million votes to exist, it would be now. It would be right now, because right now we have millions. People argue about the number, but we have millions of people who have invaded the United States illegally, come across the border illegally. And in that process, could have been, were intended to be Democratic voters voting for whoever the candidate was, whether it was Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, because obviously the invasion has been going on for 4 years, ever since Biden took office. And so, now we've got people on the left are angry that they didn't win the election. And I get it. I got it. I mean, I want my horse to win the horse race every time too. I do. I wasn't happy in 2020 when Trump didn't win. And I do know for certain, I don't believe, it's a fact. There's overwhelming evidence. There are over 4,000 affidavits, legal affidavits, sworn testimony from people who saw acts of fraud being committed inside of the election, that, you can't argue with these 4,000 people. What, did they all conspire at once? Were they all angry? No, they saw things. They reported things, whether it was ballots being pulled out from underneath the desk in Atlanta, Georgia, or whether it was trucks filled with ballots being shipped from New York to Pennsylvania, or whether it was a 3 a.m. multi-truck ballot drop-off for Joe Biden coming in the back door in Cobo Hall in Detroit, Michigan. There's evidence. It's there. It's irrefutable. Whether any court, any democratically appointed judge was willing to hear the evidence or not, it happened. And again, just because somebody else agrees to something, if everybody else agrees to something and you saw evidence to the contrary, it doesn't mean you're an idiot. It likely means you're being gaslit. And so for the last 4 years, we've been gaslit. We've been gaslit as a population to believe a lot of things. Number one, that we were the minority if we supported a way of life. And I'm not even specific about supporting Donald Trump, although Donald Trump much better supports the way of life that I would want to live than Kamala or Biden or certainly Obama. And so we find ourselves in a place where cognitive dissonance, the stuff that's been force-fed down our throats, Trump is a Nazi, anybody that follows Trump is a Nazi, we're evil people for thinking there's only two genders, and boys that think their girls should be allowed to compete in girls' athletics. And, we are a devil if we want somebody like Donald Trump in office, because he's going to destroy what they call women's birthrights, which, by the way, anybody that calls the circumstance women's birthrights, it's not birthrights, it's death rights they're talking about. They're talking about right to abortion, which, by the way, Donald Trump never eliminated, didn't do anything with, actually. The Supreme Court said that abortion choices should be in the hands of the state. So each individual state still decides. There's plenty of opportunities for people that want that right to an abortion to still get an abortion. And of course, people on the left will argue and say, well, that's just not right. I got to leave my state to go somewhere else. Yeah, if I want certain medical treatment that isn't allowed in the United States, stem cell or any number of things, yeah, I might have to go somewhere else to get that, but that's my choice, both to go somewhere else, but also my choice to have that procedure in the first place. So again, we've been dealing with a lot of what I call anti-arguments, arguments that have no basis, 100% gaslit. And now we're here in the almost, it's not even 7 days. It's not even 6 full days yet since Trump was elected president. And we're already seeing massive shifts taking place. Number one, Hamas has decided to minimize and withdraw troops in the Middle East. We're not going to fight the way that we were before. Caravans coming up through Mexico have gotten word that they're probably not going to be welcome. They're likely to be deported, even if they get into the United States, and they're certainly not getting cell phones. They're turning around, and they're not coming into the United States. The heads of all the major pharmaceutical companies have all met and realized they're in trouble. They lied to people. They deceived us about COVID. They deceived us about the vaccines for COVID. We were told, get a vaccine, stop the spread of COVID. And that wasn't the case, because after they pounded that lie into everybody's head, and people that got the vaccine and the booster of the booster of the booster of the booster still contracted COVID, still spread COVID, they still pounded into our heads, oh, the vaccines are the right way to go. Completely healthy athletes having heart attacks, young people dropping dead on the spot, instantaneous response to those vaccines that were not just life-threatening, life-taking. Sometimes people don't realize the power of what chemicals can do inside of our body. I, after my open heart surgery, gained 60 pounds in 60 days. It was crazy. My body just blew up. And we couldn't figure out what it was. They put me on medications forever, and we couldn't figure out what it was. They thought it was water retention. After a year, I said, maybe I'm just fat. And I went to my doctor and said, maybe I'm just fat. And he said, well, try Ozempic. People have had really good results with Ozempic. It's a great fat loss injectable. Do that, test that. So I'm open to it. I'm willing to experiment. I took Ozempic, and I don't know if you know this, when you first take it, the amount that you inject is minuscule, almost nothing. And so when I first injected it, I didn't feel hungry. It certainly suppressed my appetite. I thought, gosh, maybe this is going to be useful to me. A week later, I did my second injection, and my body rejected it. My body broke out everywhere. I've never had eczema in my life, and I got massive eczema over my entire body, behind my ears so badly that it was literally streaming down my neck, all this eczema breaking out all over my body. So I knew my body was rejecting that. And again, it was such a small amount that if I were to pour it on a table and say, is there anything on that table? You'd say there's nothing on the table. You couldn't see it. Can you imagine getting these syringes filled with vaccine content that, number one, the pharmaceutical companies aren't liable for right now, although those liability cushions, though that coverage that they've had is going away under Trump. He's going to hold these criminals inside of big pharma accountable for what they've done to people. It's Nuremberg level of abuse and crime that's been being done. And I believe the reason that these crimes were committed was to depopulate the earth, let alone the United States. Now, people say, oh my God, what a conspiracy theorist. Okay. The challenge with all of us who you've called in the past conspiracy theorists is our theories are all now true. All of them. That the election was stolen, these vaccines are pure death, COVID was a scam, it was never real in the beginning. Yeah, COVID was real, the virus in and of itself was real. To shut down the entire world over it, not real. Body bags piling up in New York, never happened. All these people dying all over the place, no, it didn't happen. Did people die during the era of COVID? Sure they did. A lot of things were mislabeled. Heart attacks, accidents, cancers were all mislabeled as COVID. Why? Because the government was rewarding people for saying that people died of COVID again and again and again. How do we talk to our leftist friends? Good idea. Isn't that the theme of this conversation? What are you thinking? I'm getting off on Adam's over there spanking me right now. The producer's saying, dude, you're going so far down. That's another day. Vaccines are another day. Okay. So yeah, we said we were going to teach you how to talk to your leftist friends. I have an employee that I love very much. She's been a part of my team for a long time, and I won't name her name. When things come up, okay, I'll say this out loud. She manages one of my properties, And there's certain things that she doesn't care to do. If somebody forgets to, she also handles the maintenance inside of the house, the housekeeping inside of the house. And so if somebody forgets to flush the toilet, it bothers her. And I get it. It would bother me too. But again, if I was in charge of making sure the house was clean, while it would bother me, I would just flush the toilet and then say something. Could you guys please flush the toilet? It's disgusting. Or if laundry is left in a pile and not necessarily in the hamper, she doesn't like to pick it up from where it is because it's not in the hamper. And while I think, yeah, myself and my family, they should keep things in the hamper, that's also part of her responsibility is to clean the clothes. And so while uncomfortable, when I addressed it with my family, I said, guys, I'd like everybody to make a new commitment, a renewed commitment to getting your clothes into the hamper so that this person doesn't have to pick them up from the floor. And then I also said to my friend, my employee, rather, my teammate, you're also responsible for washing the clothes. So pick them up from the floor. If you have a bone, ask them to put them in the hamper. In the meantime, pick them up from the floor and we'll get to the place we want to get to. And that's where we find ourselves with this election. Biden, in my opinion, was installed illegally by the Democratic Party, largely directed by Barack Obama. And I'll get to that in a moment because it's all a part of how do we have these discussions. I was in a turmoil. Our last live, I told you, I went into a depression because not because Biden won. If Biden had won cleanly, I'd have said, okay, that candidate won. That's not what put me in a tizzy. What put me in a tizzy and what concerned me and frankly depressed me for a while was the fact that I didn't think we had legit elections anymore. And without legit elections, we don't have a country. We've got to be able to elect our officials, or the people that are a part of the very real deep state will just install another candidate to promote and extend their agendas. And so that's what bothered me in 2020. There's not really a lot of conversation that 2024 was stolen. There are some people that are saying, where'd those 20 million votes go? Except nobody is able to pinpoint anything, because it didn't happen, that the Republicans or those supporting Trump did to fraudulently claim his next term as president. That's not coming up because it didn't happen. There wasn't the rampant fraud that we saw in 2020. And so now we're here with a percentage of the population. And I've said this for a long time, even though the popular vote in this election was won by Donald Trump by about 7 million votes, as the dust is settling, by about 7 million votes. The fact of the matter is, though, it's not just 7 million more people. It's not just 10% more of the population. It's not a 60-40 split, in my opinion. Those are the votes. You still have a large percentage of people that just don't vote. And to think that 100% of those people would have voted for Kamala doesn't make any sense. So I don't think it's 60-40 in this country. I think it's 80-20 in this country of people who maybe support Trump, or maybe they don't support Trump, except they do support what Trump stands for versus what the Democratic Party has become. So I think it's 80-20. That's the place I want to start with. I don't think it's 40% or almost half of your friends that are extremely unhappy that Trump's in office. I think it's 20%. And so I want to start with, it's not as big as we think it is. You know, one of the glorious things that's happened since last Tuesday is you can wear your MAGA hat without getting kicked out of restaurants now. You can tell your friends, I support Donald Trump. And again, is that a victor stance? Absolutely. Is that also, though, a fact? Because I said this for 4 years. Anytime I interacted with the majority of my friends, 80% of my friends, I would tell them, because I've always been vocal about supporting Donald Trump and supporting a very conservative approach to things. I said from the beginning to my friends, it's not that it's the majority of people that are opposed to Donald Trump. We've got mainstream media and big tech just force feeding us that belief. And I said, I don't think it's real. And I think the other challenge is far left people are often loud, rude, and mean and nasty. There, I said it out loud. Not all my Democratic friends, certainly not. Not even my left-leaning friends. My far left friends, the ones wearing hats in the shape of a woman's private parts, the ones that scream at you, the ones that, unfortunately, and I don't think this is fair either, that were dubbed Brandon or Karen, because I have a lot of great friends named Brandon and Karen. What a hard time for them. Those people, though, those crazy left-leaning people that get offended about everything and scream about anything and just make your life miserable, those people were so loud that the polite conservatives just kept their mouths shut. And now we know we don't need to. We know that we're the majority. That said, though, we should not be arrogant. That said, we should not gloat. That said, though, we should also not kowtow or cower. We should not back up. So a friend of mine asked me last night, how do you deal with your friends that are far left leaning? I did magic as a young man, prestidigitation. We're putting some very cool magic shows into prosperity theater. And I don't know what it is with magicians. Maybe it's the arts in general. I have a substantial, disproportionate amount of my magician friends are left leaning. And it boggles me. My best friend is a magician. My best friend, Greg Gleason, is a magician. And he and I talk, and I've got a bunch of other magical friends. David McGee, also a phenomenal magician. So many that are very conservative, and we don't understand our left-leaning magical friends. They're magicians. You would think they could identify deception when they saw it, yet apparently they don't see it. And so how do you deal with those kinds of people? Number one, you don't be mean. You do your best to be kind and truthful and firm. You don't be mean. You don't gloat. You don't rub it in their face. And I think that one of the biggest strategies that you can utilize right now is to hold this thought. I love you, and I love you, and it's not your fault, because it's not their fault. Anybody that's in a tizzy right now, that Donald Trump, with the track record he had in the White House versus Kamala Harris and her track record in the White House, anybody seeing anything other than Donald Trump far exceeded Harris and Biden. Because there's people I know that will say, well, Harris wasn't actually the president. She was the vice president, and that's a figurehead position. That's a cop-out. That's a lie. It's not true, especially because now the left acknowledges that Biden has had diminished mental capacity. We all knew that. Everybody knew that. And they didn't want to acknowledge it. Even Barack Obama didn't want to acknowledge it after Biden's June debate, where he clearly fell flat on his face. And that was the deciding factor. Barack Obama went on record as saying, oh, no, he just had a bad debate. He didn't have a bad debate. When Barack Obama was president, he said, Biden, don't underestimate Joe's ability to F something up. And so, again, all the evidence is there. The challenge is, as a hypnotist, I know that if you completely overwhelm somebody with information, if you repeatedly pound something into their head, that eventually they'll just agree. You put a person into an interrogation, a police interrogation, and you interrogate them for hours and hours and hours and hours. Well, you may or may not know, police are legally allowed to lie to somebody when they're interrogating them. I think that's wrong. They're legally allowed to lie to somebody. And so some of the lies that an interrogator might use, an unethical interrogator might use, is they might say, hey, just admit your crime and you can go home. Well, that's not happening. They admit the crime. They're going into cuffs. They're going into a cell. They're not going home. But they tell people that so they'll admit the crime. Then they can say, we got a confession from this person. Yeah, you browbeat it out of them. So if you have leftist friends, please recognize they've been browbeat. Do you remember, if you are a conservative, if you were or are a Trump supporter, do you realize how badly you were beat up as a Trump supporter? As somebody that was a conservative? Do you know how much people attacked you as being a racist, misogynistic, absolute hate-filled Nazi? If you said, I don't want boys in my girl's bathroom. Do you understand the abuse that we received? Well, now you can understand somebody who might not like being beat up, somebody who may not like rocking a boat, somebody who is, in due respect, more sensitive than you, more soft, not hard, not willing to go to battle than you. Can you imagine that person in pure survival mode having to take a position? And that position would have to be, I hate Donald Trump. I'm opposed to conservatives. You got to open up the border. It's not fair to, force those people to, come in the legal route. You got to open up the border and give them a place to live. Not really thinking the whole thing through. Because even during the time that the border has been wide open and we've had tens of millions of people come into the country illegally through illegal channels, criminal channels, all those people coming through. Yeah, I get the idea that they are trying to find a safe place. They're running away from their country and all that was going on there. I get it. It's just not our place to be the savior of the world. And it's never going to be our place. It's not anybody's place, and it shouldn't be. Save thyself has to be everybody's adage, because that's all we all can do. But at the same time, can you imagine, though, those same people that are saying, oh, you've got to give sanctuary to these oppressed individuals who are coming across the border? Yeah, can they live at your house? Oh, no, they can't live at my house. Well, whose house are they going to live at then? They're going to live at somebody's house. They're going to be paid for with somebody's money. And since the government doesn't make any of its own money, some of that money is mine and yours. Back to the point, though. The point is, as much as you felt resisted as a Trump supporter, as they termed us MAGA, Make America Great, I don't even know how that became a subset of people, except as a conservative, I know the abuse that I've experienced over the last 8 years, 9 years, not just since Trump was in office, since he announced his candidacy. I've experienced that abuse. That's the level of abuse that anybody that went far left and got so far on the other side of this, that's what they experienced too, which is why they went there. Have sympathy, have empathy, recognize they've been brainwashed. And anybody thinking, oh my God, the world's going to go to hell because Trump is now our next president, isn't paying attention, just is not paying attention. AOC was interviewing in a Senate hearing the person that was just announced as our new border czar by Trump. And while he was being interrogated by AOC, she repeatedly said, so, did you author this memo that says we should separate children from their parents? And he said, yes, I signed that. I did not author that. She said, but do you support separating parents from their children? He said, I support holding up the law. And when I heard it, I thought, gosh, that sounds frankly familiar to what Kamala Harris said on an NBC interview recently with Brett Baier. He said, I support upholding the law. She said, you're sidestepping the question. He said, I'm not sidestepping anything. If I get arrested for drunk driving, they're going to separate me from my children. If I rob a bank, commit a crime, they're going to separate me from my children and throw me in jail. And then AOC, in her style, interjected. She said, yes, but they're not committing crimes. And he said, yes, they are. They came into the country illegally. She said, they're looking for sanctuary. He said, they can go through channels like everybody else seeking sanctuary does that are legal channels. I agree with that. I support that ideology. I support that fact. Again, I get it. We're not that far off. And that's the point of this conversation with you right now. We are not that far off. We are close to reconnecting this country. We are close to better cost of living. In the last 4 years under the Biden administration, which in due respect is nothing more than a continuation of the Obama administrations. In the last 4 years, while puppet Joe Biden was being puppeteered by Barack Obama and all that are centered around him, during that time, crime has soared. Don't let anybody lie to you. Don't pretend. Crime has soared. In California, they reduced the act of stealing, the felonious act of stealing, that you had to steal over $1,000 worth of goods before it became a crime. That if it was under $1,000, it was a misdemeanor, and they didn't even charge you. We saw what the outcome of that is. We've seen raids on stores where mobs of people go into stores, crashing through cases, grabbing goods off shelves and off racks, racing out the door with nothing anybody can do because it's less than $1,000 each grab times 40, 50, 60 people. Crime has soared coming across the border. The economy has been crashed. Don't let anybody pretend that we got any jobs back. COVID shut down jobs. Moving factories out of the United States shut down jobs. Don't think the replenishment of jobs lost is an increase of jobs had. It's just not the case. So the economy has gone through dire straits for 4 years. The cost of goods has multiplied on everything, not just eggs. Yeah, for sure, eggs, but everything: gas, eggs, rent, utilities, everything. There's no arguing with all of that. So, you got to come back and ask yourself the question: if all of those things are true, we back? Check 1 2, test 1 2. Check test 1 2. So we good? So my audio dropped out. Apparently, the deep state already found me. Yeah, you laugh and I giggle, but I'm serious. So at any rate, I don't even remember what I was talking about. The fact of the matter is, if you take somebody, and again, anybody that's a conservative doesn't get it. We don't understand. Why would you fight reduced cost of goods? Why would you be angry about gas prices being lowered? Why would you be angry about the border being secured and less people coming in that are potentially criminals or are definitely criminals if they come in illegally? Why would anybody be angry about that? And the fact is, any clear-minded person wouldn't be angry about that. So the first thing I want you to think about with your leftist friends, are we good on the audio now? The first thing I want you to consider with your leftist friends is they're just misinformed. And they're not just slightly misinformed, where a conversation from you is going to turn their opinion. No, they've been beat up for 8 years as well. They've been beat up during all of Trump's administration as 45, during all of his campaign for 46, and now even his campaign for 47. They've been beat up for 9 years as well. Some of them kowtowed. Some of them bent. They didn't like being beat up, so they said, okay, I'm going to jump on this ship because this ship apparently gets attacked less. I get it. Except now is the time for the blinders to be removed, for the truth to be told, for the dust to settle wherever it settles, and for the truth to set us free. What will the truth be? Said it at the top of this broadcast. Terrorists in the Middle East, Hamas has said, we're going to reduce the fighting. We're going to cease fire. Zelensky has already asked for the war in Ukraine to end the day Trump was elected. He started having discussions with Trump. How do we end this war? It's happening. It's happening. And the byproduct of Trump being president will be a better country. And as the world reflects it, if you look at any international chat, any posts that have international chat, if you look at that international chat, the world overwhelmingly is grateful that Donald Trump is back in office because they saw what the Biden administration and the democratic process inside of that administration was doing to the entire world. Nothing good. And so, again, we find ourselves in a really good place. How do you talk to your friends? First and foremost, don't blame them. I know it's easy to think they're idiots because I've thought it myself. And it's not fair, though. It's not right. And it's not how we're going to get everything back to love and back to cooperation. First and foremost, understand them. It's not their fault that they are being the way that they're being, they have been hypnotized. So once you come from an empathetic position, I want you to keep doing this phrase in your head, saying the phrase, I love you and, I love you and, I love you and, I love you and I don't understand you. I love you and it doesn't make any sense that you would want people that think they're men that think they're women in the women's locker room competing against women. There's only two genders. That's all there is. Are there people that think otherwise? There are people that think otherwise. That doesn't change the fact. Doesn't change it. Are there people that believe they were born into the wrong body? There are. In fact, there's more people thinking that now than ever. Why? Because it's been normal. Because too much of the left-leaning, vastly left-leaning ideologies have entered our public school systems, and kids are being criminally assaulted by teachers that want to confuse people that don't even know, they don't know left from right yet. And yet you're telling them they get to choose what gender they are? Stop it. If you're a teacher doing that in public schools, stop it. You're a criminal, you're committing crimes, and you're evil. Stop it. So how do you talk to people like that? When you see a crime being committed, you firmly say, stop, no more of this. I don't want to be violent with you, and I don't want you to be violent with me, except if me disagreeing with you wholeheartedly and firmly saying stop means we can't be friends, then we can't be friends. I had somebody who contacted me yesterday, one of my inner circle members. She is in Michigan, and I was very proud that Michigan, I think Michigan did it in 2020. I was very proud that Michigan overwhelmingly did it in 2024 again, voted for Donald Trump because it's my home state, number one. But also, I know that Michigan is filled with very hardworking middle-class people like me, very hardworking middle-class people. And I knew that they don't support the nonsense of what's going on. There's Muslims in Dearborn, down in the Detroit area, that don't want people coming in illegally. There's plenty of Hispanics and blacks inside of Michigan that are saying, hey, you're taking care of all these people coming in illegally. We're here legally. Take care of us. That's what won the election for Trump. And she contacted me. She said, I have family members here in Michigan that are so far left, they're lost. How do I deal with them? And I said, you don't. No, she asked me, how do I convince them? I said, you don't convince them. I said, the proof is in the pudding. Let the fruit be the evidence. Let your joyful life, without screaming and fighting and bickering and blaming, let your example be the thing that converts them. Let the fact that at the end of the month, after Trump's in office, 3-4 months, that they have money left in their bank account, let that be the convincer. Because I think, again, Donald Trump in this term will be nothing like the Donald Trump in the previous term. Nothing. Number one, he's got nothing to lose. He's not running for office for another term. So this term, the second term, where most presidents actually get lazy because they're not running for reelection, I don't think Donald Trump was ever president, certainly not for the money. He doesn't take any money, but he wasn't even in that position, didn't go into that position for the power. He already had power. In fact, he had substantially more power by being center, by not being of an opinion. And so he's hurt in every way by being president. He's not helped in any way. It's not a power mongering circumstance for him, just the opposite. I mean, what would you want a position that opposition then attacked you relentlessly with lawfare, with everything they could sling and throw at you? Who would want that? Nobody would want that. Certainly not a man like Donald Trump, who's way too smart to select that on purpose. Nobody would do that. My belief, his second term, though, is going to be a term of massive cleanup. We're going to see regeneration. We're going to see great things happening in our world, unlike anything we've ever seen, at least in my lifetime. That's what I believe is going to happen during this term, and we're already seeing it. He's talking term limits for all politicians, which I think we are way, way beyond the need for that. We need it now. The Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers of the world, they shouldn't be there. Public office should be a public position, not a career path. So just like the presidential term is limited to 2 terms, so should every other term in office. So much is about to happen. Our law enforcement is about to be respected again. Our military is about to be appreciated again. Our border patrol, our first responders are about to get the acknowledgement that they deserve, all happening right now. And I think that's phenomenal. Trump's already talking about reducing taxes. This is a capitalist understanding how velocity inside of our monetary systems actually works, not people trying to game the monetary system for their gain and your loss. No taxes on Social Security, no taxes on tips, diminished taxes for entrepreneurs and self-employed people. All the above allows us to hire more and more people, which allows the economy to flourish, which allows everybody to win. When I talk to my friends that are far left leaning, first and foremost, I don't hide my circumstance. I don't hide my position with them. I also don't pretend like I don't want to be their friend. I want to be their friend. We do have different political opinions. That doesn't mean I allow people to be nasty. Having a different opinion than me is one thing. Being nasty is completely different. So if you ever follow me on social media, I have zero tolerance for nasty people, none. If I see somebody that's a conservative attacking somebody, I'll say something about it. I have no patience for that. And, if I see somebody saying, oh, all those crazy Trump supporters, those evil, vile people, ugly, nasty, rotten human beings, oh, you bet I'll say something, because that's just their projection. That's just their gaslighting back what they've been gaslighted with. And so the first thing is be proud. Do not pretend that you don't support a conservative America, a God-loving America, an America of law, which I completely love and support. Do not pretend. Let people know where you stand, because that's the first thing. Because I think it'll force the opposite occurrence of what we've been enduring for the last 8 years. For 8 years, I haven't worn my MAGA hat because I haven't thought I didn't want to start fights. Now the opposite has occurred. Wear your MAGA hat, because just as they forced a lot of people to pretend they weren't conservative, pretend they didn't support Trump, pretend they didn't support what Trump stood for, because it's not about Trump, it's about what Trump stands for. Now we don't have to pretend anymore. And I think that's the utmost importance. Don't pretend. Do not gloat. Do not be mean-spirited like the left was. Be kind. The second thing is, with your friends that hold beliefs like that, just ask them to support what their positions are. Ask them for evidence. You say Trump's a criminal. Well, the man, lived for 70 plus years without committing a single crime. He's elected president, and suddenly he starts committing all these felonies. Does it make any sense to you? Doesn't make sense to me. Trump hates women. I don't understand why you say that. He seems to love women. So you say both he loves women and he hates women. Which is it? Trump hates blacks. I don't understand. He loved blacks before he was president. He has clearly demonstrated his support of all races and ethnicities. Show me the proof. What are you talking about? Well, he said this or he said that. Can you show me a video of him saying that? Could you play audio? Even in this day of AI and deep fakes, can you show me any evidence? Because they cannot. Prior to the election, if you ask somebody, what is it about Kamala Harris's policies that you support? Which policies do you support? Ultimately, they had none other than abortion. Ultimately, they had nothing else, though. And what they would usually get to was, I would vote for a ham sandwich if it wasn't Trump. Whoa, got it. That's just not sane. That's insane. That's crazy. So if you're dealing with a crazy person, don't jump on their crazy train and attempt to combat their craziness, because you're not going to. They're going to hold that craziness. In fact, the more you in this safe environment, and that is key. In a safe environment, when they're allowed to hold their opinions, not be attacked, say, look, I'm not saying I'm going to agree with you. I just want to understand you. I like you, as a human being, by virtue of the fact that you are a human being. I love you. I don't agree with you, and I'd like to know why you think what you think, so that maybe there's a common ground, or maybe you'll see it my way, or maybe I'll see it your way. I'm open to that. That's how you deal with your friends. that don't hold the same belief that you hold. You say, you got to establish we don't hold the same beliefs. Please help me understand the reason you hold yours. And I'm not going to attempt to get you to hold mine. I won't even go there unless you ask me. I'd like to know why you hold yours, though, because maybe I'm wrong. And that's always maybe you're wrong. Maybe they're right. If they are right, audio again? We should fix this completely. So we're having microphone challenges here, and all my nuggets apparently aren't completely being heard. Am I on? Because I'm always turned on. Hey, you're loved. Like I said, we're raw right now. We're not fully set up, so don't get the wrong idea. Studio Money, man, this place is gorgeous, and the studio is getting close. We're shopping news desks right now. We've got the 24-foot video wall there. You probably see behind me the 10-foot monitor video wall there. It's just turning out great. So, hey, I'm Marshall Silver. We are going to start giving away cash on a daily basis, and I'm going to change it up. I'm going to not only give away cash to people that tune into the show, I'm also going to start rewarding people who refer people to tune into the show. So if you have not yet registered inside the vault, go to studiomoney.com and check it out. What is it? Studiomoney.com/the vault. Yeah, I think that's a good URL. Can you check that out for me, Adam? Studiomoney.com/the vault. And you can register there to get reminders that we're going live. It's also where you can get an affiliate link that you can refer people to our daily broadcast. We're about to very soon. I cannot promise it'll be tomorrow. We're still working out bugs. We're about to very soon go back to live broadcasts every single day, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So go to the vault and get your affiliate link and start referring people to the show, because I'm also going to not only pay the winners cash every day, I'm also going to give a bonus cash prize to the person that referred the person that won the cash every single day. So that's coming up very soon. Make sure you keep checking it out. Hey, I'm Marshall Silver. We're wrapping up today's live rant. I trust you got a little bit of insight, if nothing else, maybe some thoughts on how to chat with your friends that are hurting right now, and they're hurting. Studiomoney.info. Studiomoney.info/the vault. Studiomoney.info/the vault. So that's temporary URL. Check that out. We've got, like I said, affiliate links there and some other stuff. And also, when we start taking your calls, it's also the place that you can click the link and get on the air live during these broadcasts and these rants. Hey, it's a glorious day. By the way, before we wrap up, I have been contemplating lately that I didn't want to drink coffee as much for whatever reason, whether my metabolism is shifting, which it definitely is. I got a lot of people saying, Marshall, you look like you're losing weight. I am. I did some research, figured out what had been holding my metabolism back, got some things adjusted, not taking any kind of Ozempic or anything. Like I said, my body doesn't handle it. And yet I've been losing weight. I've been less hungry. My knees have gotten back to normal. So I've been able to go on my 3.5-mile walk, which has infinitely helped me. I've been contemplating, though, giving up coffee. And my great friend, the producer of the show right now, Adam K, bye on Facebook. Adam K, phenomenal guy. I love this man so much. Showed up at my house yesterday here at the beach, and he brought these packets of mushroom coffee, I guess is the best way to describe it. It's a mushroom beverage with all sorts of nootropics inside of it. And I'd been contemplating giving up caffeine because my body, as I've been adjusting and losing the weight, I've been like hyper engaged on coffee. I've been like amping out. And so I would drink a half a cup of coffee and start seeing spots. And so I said, I got to find a new beverage. Yesterday, he gave me a beverage. I drank it this morning. It's nootropic mushroom beverage. And the clarity that I'm experiencing is remarkable. The nice energy that I'm experiencing, clean energy from this, is remarkable. I told him when I walked into the studio this morning, I said, I want more of that stuff. I want to white label it. I want to get it to everybody that I know, because it's a remarkable alternative to traditional coffee. And if it has all the nutrients and nutraceuticals inside of it that are what are in those mushrooms and all the other elements. Man, good stuff. And he said, yeah, they are white label. They do produce for people. So when you come to events here at Studio Money, we're going to let you sample some of this beverage. It's remarkable. So as I wrap up the day, you have an awesome day. It is the day God has made. Make it all that you can. Be patient with your friends. Do not seek to convert them. Seek to understand them first, and then live your life by example. That in and of itself will be the motivation and inspiration that will cause them to come back from the dark side, Luke. Until we chat again, I'm Marshall Silver, your personal millionaire maker. Make it an awesome day. Bye for now.